As time passes and you change and continue changing in accumulating ways, eventually it gets a lot easier to be compassionate with the mistakes that your past self has made. It's like that's a different person, and it's way easier to be compassionate about other people's problems than your own. Change is one of my core values for the moment, and in many ways I take comfort in knowing that the person who wakes up in this body tomorrow is going to be a different person than the one who goes to bed in it tonight. For one thing, it means I don't have to be the one who faces the mortification of performing this script. Motherfucker. If you finished writing it 2 hours earlier, you could have shot it and I'd be editing right now. It is pointless to argue with him. He doesn't exist. So you'd think I'd have an easy time forgiving myself for something I did like 2 years ago, but the thing is, I believe that thing about being a different person tomorrow in the same way that some people believe in God, which is to say that it only works some of the time. And I could drag this out even longer and make you really wait to hear what it was that I did for viewer retention purposes, but it was a shitty comment. I left a shitty comment on someone's video, and it's going to be such an anticlimax if you're like waiting for that. This isn't an apology video, although I am very sorry for having done it. This is about you guys, my viewers, and especially the ones who leave comments. Now, if you want to skip the personal anecdote and get right to the internet theory, here's your timestamp. Because I've been having a hard time this week. The comments have been getting to me. And like, most of the comments have been amazing. And for the first couple weeks, even the annoying ones were like background noise against seeing the evidence that the videos I was making were doing the things I wanted them to do for the people I was trying to reach. But there's this one kind of comment people write where they're trying to be helpful by explaining to me all of the things that I'm doing wrong based on incorrect assumptions about what I'm trying to do. And like, I know tone on the internet and all that, but I can't read it as being anything other than condescending to the point of infantilization. Like, who does that? What kind of person? I can't imagine anyone who isn't the most inconsiderate, hateful, incompetent. I've left a comment like that. Like, exactly that kind of comment. And later, I saw a video by that same creator talking about how upsetting and destabilizing that kind of comment is, getting the unwanted critical feedback that makes transparently false assumptions about what they were even trying to accomplish. They went into a lot more detail than that. It was very clear they were talking about my comment, or at least a set of comments of which mine was definitely a member. The worst part is I did know better than that. I had been a full-time creator for about 2 or 3 years at that point. I had had the same spirals about the same kinds of comments. I had no excuse. How could I possibly apologize? That might not be the worst part, actually, because I also know exactly why I did it. Because I thought that creator was so cool and impressive, and they'd asked for feedback explicitly, and I didn't have any of the kind of feedback they were asking for, but I really wanted to participate. I was lonely and depressed, like in a really bad depressive episode at the time, and I just wanted to connect. I wanted to be part of it, and I couldn't because I didn't have anything to say, so I tried to come up with something. I dug into my brain looking for anything I had that might be close enough, and I made a bad decision on purpose for selfish reasons. Rationalizing it, telling myself that maybe because they'd asked for feedback specifically, this would be welcome. And I found out later that I had hurt that person in exactly the way that that kind of comment would have hurt me. And like, people hurt people. That's normal. That's part of life. It's even normal to sometimes hurt people on purpose for selfish reasons. You recognize what you did, apologize, don't do it again, and move the fuck on. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. Or you can do what I did with that particular mistake, which is shove it down under as much other shit in your head as you possibly can. And when it comes bubbling back up every day or so, and then every couple days, and then every week, and then every few weeks, and then around once a month or so, you just shove it back down again. The thing is, I've totally done shittier things for shittier reasons since then, but none of it, I think actually none of it has eaten away at me as much as that one fucking comment. Because I couldn't reconcile it. I couldn't hold having done that in my head and at the same time believe anything good about myself. I couldn't see how the person that I wanted to believe I was could ever make that mistake. I deleted that comment a few weeks ago before I started posting these videos. I had left it up before then out of sort of a combination of self-flagellation and a fear of how much it would hurt to go and look at it. But then it came bubbling up right as I was getting ready to post one of these videos, and I was stricken by an overwhelming fear that somebody would watch my content and then go and see that video, see my comment under it, and immediately recognize what a fraud and a monster I am. And then I shoved it back down. And I was okay for a couple weeks. Anyway, like a week ago, that creator commented on one of my videos. It was a really kind and positive comment. And my first reaction was, oh my God, thank you so much. But I think that's why these comments went from annoying to unbearable, because it had me hating myself again. Because it's really, really hard to be compassionate with someone else for something you refuse to forgive yourself for. So after about a week of writing half scripts that devolved into incoherent rage, I finally had something on Saturday that I thought was filmable. And I ran it by my roommate, and she said, "This is too mean to be fun to watch." And I was like, oh, I thought this was really dialed back. So we talked about it. And then I did some meditations, and then we talked some more, and then we sat in silence for like a good minute. And then I confessed about that comment that I left that one time. Now, for context, my roommate is also a professional content creator, and I didn't think that she was going to hear that story and say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were a good person, my mistake, I'm leaving, and then never speak to me again. But my lizard brain definitely thought that's what was going to happen. Or maybe monkey brain, I don't know, it was a social fear. But she didn't even get what was so bad about the comment. Turns out she just doesn't have that kind of response to commenters. And I might go a little bit of a ways to explaining why she's so much better at being consistent about her job than I am, but I do get that reaction, and I also know that this other creator does, and also almost definitely did specifically get it because of that comment that I left. And I said I don't know how I could ever even explain myself, and she said you just did that whole thing about wanting to participate, and this is where the people who skipped ahead because they wanted to get straight to the theory come back, because that reminded me of a thing I've been harping on about for like 2 years now, which is that in most parts of the social internet, there is no difference between presence and speech. Like, you ever wonder why it seems like everyone has to have a take about everything these days? It's because you have to be talking to be in the room. You can't go online and just quietly be present in the way that you could in like a pool hall or a dentist's office. If you want to be part of the world, if you want to be in a community, and for that community to know you exist and are part of it, you have to be talking, even when you have nothing to say. And this has all kinds of implications for the way that social dynamics play out. Like, it means that the loudest people with the weirdest and most combative takes become thought leaders. Because if they're having a really loud argument in your corner of the internet, then you can't just not talk about it, or you're not in the room that day. And most people don't want to have a take about everything that comes up every time people are arguing. But if that's what you have to do to be present in the room, then you just pick whichever one seems most reasonable to you and repeat it. Just say, hi, I'm here. Imagine that situation, but it's taking place in a bar in meat space. Like, you're sitting at the bar, and there are some people you're chatting to, and there are people in the tables and in the booths, and everybody's quietly talking to each other. And in the corner, there are just these two drunk assholes having the loudest argument you can imagine. And it's like just on the edge of offensive enough for the bartender to throw them out. And everybody else in the room kind of gets quiet because these people are making a scene. Now those two people are the only ones talking, but it doesn't make them the dominant voices in the room, because your silence and the silence of everyone else in the room cosigns the collective position that these two do not speak for us. There are a ton of little, communication features built into the physical world that have been a part of every culture and structure of communication that has ever existed for tens of thousands of years, until suddenly, 40 years ago, they weren't. And that's weird, and it's hard to get used to, and we haven't figured out what all of them are yet, or how to deal with the fact that things that we could never have imagined would be not a quality of a conversation are suddenly not qualities of a conversation. By the way, if you know any scholars who've argued that idea, please let me know who they are. I've heard from a bunch of people that there should be someone out there doing it, but every time I've looked into it, I've found people doing things that are way more abstract. And I definitely haven't checked everywhere there is to check yet, but if you can save me some time, please do. So after years of boiling guilt about this one comment I left, 3 minutes after saying it out loud to another human being, I was able to think a little bit clearly about the comments that I was mad about, and apply my actual area of study to them, and think through how it is possible that someone I could like and respect would leave that comment. And once you're there, it's possible to engage with the comment in good faith. And I have no idea whether that actually accounts for the attitudes of everyone who left that kind of comment in the past couple of weeks, but like, that doesn't fucking matter, because what I'm trying to get out of this is not a close personal relationship with all of them. It's the ability to get pissed off at a comment, stand up, walk away, shake it off, and then move on with my fucking life, instead of spending an entire week stewing about it and then showing up 3 days late with a video. Anyone who was trying to be an asshole, I can just write off without having to hate myself about it. And for anyone who just really wanted to participate and pushed a little too hard on the rationalizations to get out something that they felt like justified their leaving a comment, here's the deal. You can just comment, "I'm participating." Or something else. A few years back, Hank Green was advocating for people posting plus signs under things because the algorithm valued comments more than likes. When I was on YouTube back in the late 2010s, I was doing the whole left tube thing. Those videos are really embarrassing, so they're not online anymore. Anyway, I would comment on my mutuals post with like a robot icon and then a meat icon as a way of saying like feeding the algorithm. You can tell me your favorite song lyric or a type of flower. The reason all my scripts fell apart last week was because the only part of my emotions I could access about this were anger, but I did know underneath that I couldn't just want to be rid of everyone who'd pissed me off in the past week without feeling like I didn't belong here either. And I can't know your hearts by reading your comments, but if you did write something that was trying to be helpful in the past few weeks, but there's like that corner of your brain that's scratching at you like that was a bad idea, you shouldn't have done that, but you don't want to think about that because what would it mean about you if that were true? I'm not mad anymore. I'm not even disappointed. I'm happy you're here. I'm sure that you have stuff to add that will be fantastically interesting and relevant, and it just hasn't happened to come up in one of the videos that exist yet. Stick around. I want you here. Say hi. You don't even have to apologize, because much like the creator who left the very kind comment on one of my videos last week, I have not been memorizing icons and usernames. You're about to see my Patreon supporters start scrolling by here, and that does mean we're basically at the end of the video, but as an incentive to stick around, I'm going to tell you the beginning of a joke, and then I'm only going to finish it at the very end of the video. What's red and smells like blue paint? I'm a PhD student studying communication, and my area of focus is the way that the Academy communicates with itself and the public. This line of research is unlikely to get me any job offers coming out of grad school. And anyway, working for an institution would mean complying with all of the academic communication forms that I am explicitly criticizing and trying to change. That's two of the reasons why I'm funding my career as an academic on Patreon. Others include job security, because I would rather have 4,000 people able to decide whether to fire me $5 at a time than a handful of administrators with their hands on the switch for my entire salary, and because my stake in the Academy is in the Academy as a public good, and to that end I think it's important that I be answerable to a public, not to an institution. Also, those videos from when I was trying to do the bread tube thing are available as a Patreon perk, as well as the vlog that I kept in undergrad. I don't hate them so much that I never want them to see the light of day again. I just don't want anyone to watch them if they don't like me enough to be backing me for $5 a month. The Patreon is where I post about all of the cool stuff I'm doing, so if you want to keep up with that, go follow the Patreon. That's free. Also, if you hit the like button, and then you decide later that you didn't actually like this video, you can come back and unclick it. It's totally reversible, and so there is no risk. Same goes for the subscribe button. Leaving a comment, I can't unsee whatever you write in the comments, but like, you can just say I'm here. Oh, and red paint.